G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to IL-2 Battle of Stalingrad with Mags. Today we're going to be taking a look at, well, some campaign gameplay more than anything else. I've actually gone off playing the multiplayer a little bit for the moment and have stepped over to playing the campaign, mainly because there's a whole bunch of really nice looking skins that I want unlocked, and they can only be unlocked by playing through the campaign mode. And I figure the campaign of Battle of Stalingrad isn't something that I've actually really covered before, so it's probably worth taking a bit of a look at. When Battle of Stalingrad first came out, the campaign was not a particularly popular feature. The basic problem was, in previous IL-2 games, there had been a fairly in-depth campaign. IL-2 1946 had mostly a text-based campaign, but explained what the squadrons that you were a part of were doing and why they were doing it. Then it went up to Cliffs of Dover, the forerunner to Battle of Stalingrad, and it had a full, with characters, storyline. It was still mostly text-based, but there was voice acting within the missions themselves. And then we came to Battle of Stalingrad, and its campaign mode was pretty much a random mission generator. Thankfully, since then, they've fleshed it out a lot more, and the newer parts of the campaign have had a storyline added to it. There are still randomly generated missions, but they are sort of the missions you play between elements of the storyline. And they've also done a little bit to flesh out the way the missions are randomly generated, so now you get a hell of a lot more activity in the battles. It's not uncommon to be flying through your mission profile heading towards your target zone and to encounter a massive pitched air battle between Soviet and German forces over part of Stalingrad that is actually completely unrelated to your mission. You can go in and get involved if you wish to, or you can just continue on mission and let them fight it out, which is actually really good. I like that. I would like to see a more developed storyline, of course, but what's there is definitely playable, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. So, speaking of missions, what exactly are we up to today? Well, it's a pretty simple flight. Two Bf-109 F4s, myself and my wingman, are equipped with gun pods. This was the standard mission profile. Have been tasked to hunt down a number of IL-2s that are approaching our action point. So, nice and simple, just kill the IL-2s. The problem is we don't know how many IL-2s there are, and we don't know if they have an escort or not. But we're about to find out, as I've just spotted motion down below near the action point, and it looks like a fairly sizable group. So, I actually went a little bit too hard on this initial dive. I tipped the plane over and went basically max throttle directly towards the ground and started pushing out past 600 kilometers an hour, and well, as you can see, I was having trouble maneuvering the aircraft and I was a little worried I might actually collide, so instead, first pass through, just quickly buzz the IL-2s and go back for altitude before tipping it back over again and lining up for a second pass. So, dropping back in fast, not as fast as last time however, I do actually have control of the aircraft this time, and the IL-2s are manoeuvring into a left-hand bank, so continuing to track them around. And take the lead on the first one, and then immediately turn the plane in hard and try and take a lead on the second one. Both passes miss, so there was some poor shooting there. I was shooting a little bit too high. I should have been giving it a little bit more left-hand rudder and I would have been able to get those guns on target. So straight back into the vertical. I've actually made tracking these IL-2s a hell of a lot harder than it needs to be. I completely forgot to go into the modifications and remove the headrest. This is also why I have the gun pods. The gun pods were fit for this mission as standard, and I would generally remove them in most cases. Although in this particular battle I'm sort of glad that I didn't. Now you'll notice I'm getting incredibly close before I'm shooting here. It is worth noting that I did set my gun convergence, and when I'm hunting things like IL-2s, I have a tendency to run 250 to 300 meters. I like to get nice and close before I pull the trigger. And that was a good strike across the tail there. Pull back for altitude and continue to track. Now there were 3 IL-2s. I saw the second one on the path in, and I thought I saw another aircraft on the dive in as well, but neither have popped up. I'm assuming that's where my wingman's gone at this point. He must be dealing with a third IL-2. If he wasn't, he'd be over here engaging these 2 aircraft and I would have seen him by now. And as the wreck slowly falls into the trees and explodes, that's one of the IL-2s down. Looks like the second one I hit that I put the burst directly into the tail. may possibly have sheared off the entire tail section. But anyways, back onto the hunt. We have a second IL-2 to deal with here. Once I've taken this one out, I can start trying to work out where the hell the third one's gone, because I haven't seen it or my wingman, well, since I dove in. So, moving in close to the IL-2, it's attacking ground target, so obviously this is one of its objectives. Once again in, nice and close, 250 meters gun convergence, and get good strikes across the tail. Now, I didn't see this while flying, but the rear view camera reveals that I did blow something significant off the aircraft. Of course, I won't know exactly what it is until we've gotten close behind the aircraft to have a look again. Back into a long, wide loop to bring it back around. I don't need to stress too much at this point. There has been no hostile aircraft. The one other aircraft I was engaging has been destroyed, and I'm dropping in on the IL-2. Or at least that's what I felt like until the 50 cal started flying past the cockpit. The extra dot that I noticed at the initial dive-in was in fact a P-40, and there may have been two of them. That's where my wingman's been the whole time. Now, AAA from the ground is engaging him, and I'm tracking him through. It looks like the AAA has put some shots in and he's bleeding material, which is nice. It makes it much easier to try and locate him. The IL-2s are fairly easy to spot. They're large, they're big, they're bulky. P-40s against treetops can be a real pain, although you'll be surprised how big those things actually are. Again, bringing it in nice and close. It looks like it's already had enough of the fight. Bleeding material, flying straight and level and not attempting to dodge at all. Good strikes across the tail, and that's when I look over and I see the mission objective. The P-40's taken AAA damage and just put more shots across at 6. I could put it down, but I don't see it being a major threat for the rest of the fight at this point. I need to get that IL-2. That's actually the mission objective, and it looks like, well, I still haven't seen my wingman, so I'm guessing he's no longer with us. So I decided to let the P-40 go, roll over and begin to engage the IL-2. It was nice and easy to spot because it's bleeding material as well. Now, my main reason for not finishing off the P-40 more than anything else was ammunition. I can see that my standard MGs are perfectly fine on ammo. You can see that on the ammunition gauge in the cockpit. I can also see exactly how much ammo I have in the cannon, so that's fine. What I can't see is how much ammunition is in the gun pods, and I'm guessing I'm running awfully low at this point. And the main reason more than anything else that I'm concerned is because, well, IL-2s are a funny aircraft. The first one I shot, I hit once, maybe clipped it in one of my other passes, but one good solid burst, and it went straight into the tree line. Unfortunately, they don't all go quite so easy. My biggest concern at this point is I may not actually have enough ammunition to take this IL-2 out. Diving in for the next pass, lining myself up for the shot. I've put a couple of bursts out. I'm on low ammunition on the main cannon, so the gun pods have to be almost empty. They actually have less ammunition overall. Line up the shot, and a good strike to the left wing. We hit just where the undercarriage is fixed into the left wing, which means we should have taken out flaps, control surfaces, all sorts of wonderful parts that the IL-2 is going to need to fly. Quickly pull up for altitude and look out of the cockpit for an explosion, and we get a white smoke trail. The IL-2 is continuing to fly. And now I actually have a second problem. This river that we're over right now marks the border between German and Russian forces. Now we're crossing it, I'm flying into a zone that is infested with his AAA. And while AAA in IL-2 is not the psychic radar-guided 200mm anti-aircraft cannons of War Thunder, it's still dangerous enough to make a mess of your plane if you get in too close to it, so I need to deal with this guy right now. The short of it is, if I fail to take him out on this pass, I'm going to have to let him go. Good strike across the right wing, and I'm pretty sure I saw some more material starting to bleed out then, so something penetrated the wing hard. And then I get the beautiful sight of him going into the trees. There is no saving that landing. God, I love IL-2 damage models. But at this point, we are over the forest. There doesn't appear to be any AAA in it, which is a good start, but there will be AAA in the area, and I'm likely going to come under flak fire very soon. So we're going to aim straight down towards the river, back towards the base, and start getting the hell out of this area. And that's pretty much the conclusion of this mission. From this point on, I have effectively a 60-kilometer flight back to base. So I'm going to pull this one here. Now, I am looking to do some more campaign gameplay out of the IL-2 games. Both Battle of Stalingrad, Battle of Moscow, going through their actual storyline elements. Some campaign missions with IL-2 1946 from various theatres to show how it works and how in-depth some of the missions or some of the campaign missions in even an older game can actually get. And last but not least, I'm actually considering doing a full campaign playthrough of Cliffs of Dover, mainly because despite my absolute love for the Battle of Britain era, I've never actually finished that campaign. I've never ever played more than a few missions into it. Basically, I figure I have a playlist on this channel called IL-2 series, and it's only got one of the IL-2 series in it, so I really better do something about that. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments what you think about these ideas. Let me know whether or not you enjoyed the video, or just drop me a line and say hi. As always, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.